So where are you watching from? I don't know why I'm typing it, but I am. And what is your biggest obstacle that you're going through right now, today? And I could guess if your guys are alienated parents, I can assume that it's alienation, right? And not having your children home with you or going to court or I want you to get as specific as you feel comfortable with here on YouTube. If you feel comfortable making comments at all. Because it really helps. That is actually the first part of the teaching today, is really getting laser focused on what you're telling yourself is the problem. And I say that not to say that you're delusional about the problem, but also, I experienced this too, and I'm going to tell you a story. Also, when we are going through something, and especially, hi, how are you, Sean? What do you mean you're right behind me? That way, you sucker. When you're going through something like this, we tend to overgeneralize what the F is actually going on. And it feels much more scary and unsolvable. Getting laser focused on what the problem is, foremost, is really beneficial. Because if not, like I was saying, we make it so vague and so big, and it turns into a machine in your head, right? Like it's just all of the things, right? And that's why I asked you that's why I asked you just a second ago, what is the actual problem or obstacle that you're facing right now? Getting really curious with yourself about what it is, because also a lot of times we'll create problems in our head about the situation, and we're not even clear that we're doing it. I did this quite frequently, still do all the time. That's why I have somebody to bounce my stuff that goes on in my brain off of, for the same reason. But I wrote up there, I don't even know if y'all can see. Can you see this? Should I start using the board or not? I started to write to see if I could see like through here, but it's different because I don't even know if it's backwards or not. So what is the problem? And once you get clear on what that problem is, the next question that I want you to ask yourself is, what do you want? Because what we'll tend to do is go into what the problem is and then only think about the problem. And that defeats the purpose of overcoming, because then we get lost in the problem, and then we make it all bigger and create more problems inside that problem. And then we start looking for other ways that this problem could affect us. And our brain will tell us it's because we're trying to be smart, we're being strategic, so we need to check all the angles. Not to say it's not, but sometimes we get lost in that. So what is it that you want as a result, like, of getting through whatever this obstacle is? What's the goal? Let me bring up my notes, just because I had an order. I have at least 7 questions that I want you, eight questions at least, that I wanted you to ask yourselves. So yeah, so the first one is, what's the problem? Because your responses to all of these questions are going to be loaded with information for you to help you solve the problem or overcome the obstacle. So back when alienation began with me, there were a lot of tiny little problems. Looking back on it now, seeing the big picture, little problems, and some very large ones too, that I got lost in. And for instance, when it began, my daughter was very young. We split when she was 15 months old, and the tactic started right from the get. he got together with the woman he's with now, I think, still to this day. And they together banded together to alienate me and also follow me and do all the things that a lot of the alienating parents do. And because I had never met this lady before, and she was very active in the situation, it was unnerving, to say the least. She would come and she would pick up my daughter. I'd never even been introduced to her before. And it was a very hostile situation each time I went to do exchanges with this lady, who is now my daughter's stepmother. At the time, I knew her name just through people, but my daughter was, a toddler. It was just a nasty situation. I don't necessarily need to get into all that right now with y'all, but like, even just talking about it now, and I've worked through this, going back to where I was back then, it was a problem, right? It was a lot of obstacles, weekly obstacles that I needed to overcome in order to just, get by. As far as, okay, so there's going to be a drop off and a pickup, 2 exchanges on Wednesday that he just had dinner with her, right? And then another exchange on Saturday, and then another exchange on Sunday. That's 4 times that I would stress myself out beforehand for 12 hours, 8, 12 hours, whatever, except for the Wednesdays. And then all the time afterwards, de-stressing myself, because there was an obstacle, but in my mind, I then went all the way through and followed what this might be doing to my daughter. I went, all the possible ways that this might hurt me moving forward. And because I was in constant stress response in the moment, it was so hard for me to like fight my way out of that, to see the big picture of like, what do I want to come of this? Where am I headed through this? And because that was just a symptom, one of the symptoms of the bigger obstacles at hand. There were, at the time I was obviously still going through. I mean, he and I were just separated at the time. And so we had the custody battle to go through, a couple years worth of, 10 years really worth of prep to go after that, or more, 10 or more years. And what I wish that I would have learned back then is how to manage my mind around obstacles, because I dove straight in, got sucked in like a vortex, right? Right into each of these little symptoms, right, of the bigger problem, and lost sight of the true goal. And so I tell you that story because I want you to know that, like, I know I want to preface all of this by saying it now, that like I too was in the place where I made problems much bigger than they were, or I mean, there were big problems. There were big problems going on, right? I think we could all agree on the fact that this isn't how we wanted things to be, right? Each of us. But I also created bigger problems for myself by allowing to get like distracting my own self. So what's the problem? And then I want you to like move from that to, what is it that I want? What do I want to happen here as a whole? What's your vision for the end goal? Not getting distracted by the shiny things or the scary things. And when I say that, I don't mean that you should just become a stone. It's fine, everything's fine, and not react and just hold it all in and just keep it together. Because that also is not, it doesn't work. You can't sustain that. Manage your mind around and stay focused on what it is that you truly want in the big picture. And is this problem or is this obstacle that I'm focused on right now, for instance, with me, with her, the now stepmom, making comments about me as I leaned in to get my daughter, out of her car seat, to retrieve her and hand her over, or how it might be affecting my daughter when she goes back to the house or something like that. I would, of course, I mean, that's probably what every parent would do, is start ruminating about that and how all the ways that it will affect her all the way through, the time that she gets married and all the things. But, and I'm not saying to not be cognizant of those things, but I think there's a way for you. I know that there's a way for you, because I do it now, to write those things down, put all of your concerns in one place, and then bring that to your higher purpose, right? Bring that along with you, keep it in mind, basically, and deal with it separately, but instead of getting caught up in it. Okay, now I think I've gone there with that. Keep reassessing what your goals are. And I don't know where I heard this before, but if we think of like all the obstacles that we come across throughout our life, which there always will be obstacles, we will always, I think it's just, I can't say I know, but I'm convinced that it's just the human experience. Once we face one obstacle, we will come across another one and another one. There will always be resistance somewhere, and the smarter or the more skilled we get, sometimes the more skilled we have to be for the next problem, but think of each obstacle as like a big boulder in the road, right? And so we don't have to always break down the whole boulder, right? We just need to break a little hole through, a little pathway through to the other side. That's it. So make sure that you're not getting distracted with the shiny things or with the emotionally activating things. Because Sean, I know that you can get down those rabbit holes and completely forget what the real goal is, what your vision is. I mean, to the point where you actually lose your way. And for me, it was years before I was like, oh my God, this isn't even where I wanted to be. I do that too. Like I'm ADHD, and I do that a lot with my daily goals around the house. I will start something, and then that'll take me down a rabbit hole, which will take me down another rabbit hole, and another one, and another one, and another one. And then I forget the whole point that I sat down in the first place, right? And so everything takes me 3, 4, 5, depends on how many rabbit holes I go down. So always be reassessing and asking yourself, am I still working on the end goal? Is that where I'm going? Do I like the results that I'm creating for myself right now? And so basically what I'm asking you to do is to always be keeping your eye on the ball, and not on the problem, but on your solution, on how you want to show up, which is question number 3 or 4, which is, who do you want to be? Who do you want to be during this obstacle, while you're facing this obstacle? And like I said, I do want you to, so I was, well, I'm going to wait for that. Who do you want to be during? How do you want to show up? And who do you want to be after completion of the obstacle? Asking that second part of that question is kind of a way to, I don't want to say trick your mind, because you're not, but you're already assuming that you will complete it, which up-levels the way that you think in your mind. Who do I want to be after completing this? You're already assuming that you have this in the bag. It may be some work to do, but you're going to get through this, And so what will determine the outcome of whatever obstacle you are facing is where you're placing your focus, like what your goal is. And if you're placing your if your goal is dependent on somebody else's actions or how they show up or their responses, you're not going to be able to determine the results as easily. But it doesn't mean that it's not completable. Like people set, like corporations set sales goals all the time. They still need for other people to respond to whatever marketing they're doing. So it's not like they don't set the goals. They set the goals, but they just know, and they have a mindset of resilience and determination when they go for the goals. Because I don't know how I'm going to do it, but we're going to get there. We'll just keep trying different things. We may have to adjust here and there, but ultimately, here's where I want to be. Who do I want to be during it? Who do I want to grow into by the end of this? So your next question, and this one's a tough one. If you haven't been listening to my podcast already, it's a tough one. Otherwise, you guys are used to this question. And it's, what's the opportunity here? If it is your first time, or if you're just new to this whole situation, you find yourself in this tragedy of alienation, it might feel off-putting to think about the opportunity that lies within something as tragic as child abuse, psychological abuse on your child, and abuse on you, right? But while we're here, why not use it for you, to grow you? And also, if you have the other, like, who do you want to be in mind and what's your end goal, then seeing the opportunity in it is almost a given. How can you use this to move you forward? The next question is, what if it was always supposed to happen this way? What if the boulder was always there? It's just a boulder. It takes it away and like depersonalizes it depersonalizes a very personal situation, and you can then look at it like, this wasn't a me thing. It wasn't because of my parenting. It wasn't my kiddo, for me, my daughter. It's not like anybody's fault that this happened, but this was always going to be here. That boulder has been in the road since the beginning of time. So it was already going to happen. It was just a matter of when I got there on the road, and then you can, when you see it, if you're willing to see it as, what if it was always going to happen this way? Then nothing has gone wrong. Do that, because I know that one's it's like I said, some of you that have listened to the podcast, you've heard it from me before. But it was, God, that was a jagged pill for me to swallow in the beginning. But it's so true. And here's the benefit of it. All y'all, by the way, take what you like and leave the rest. Y'all don't have to, obviously, take on any of these beliefs if you don't want to. And if you like some of them and you don't like the other ones, that's fine too. But for me, this, what if nothing's gone wrong, actually caused me to settle down some. Okay. Oh, yeah, go. Bye, Sean. I just got a text from, okay. It caused me to settle down some. And I don't want to say relax into, but refocus myself on getting through it. Because if it was always going to be there, then it's not a personal attack on me, and it's something that's solvable. In my mind, like, okay, this isn't me. This is just the obstacle in the way, and now I just need to figure out how to move past it, move through it, move to the next one. So, are there any questions before I keep going on? Because I have, maybe I'm at question 5. We're like halfway through. Let me just check on here. Okay. All right, I'm going to keep going then. All right, so what is the next question? Oh, okay. So what's the opportunity? What if it was always going to happen this way? And then what are the types of beliefs that would prevent you from giving up? So if I didn't even talk about this up here, my coach said this to me a long time ago and I loved it. Obstacles are the raw materials for your success. They're the raw materials for your success. They are actually what you need, like the ingredients you need in order for you to succeed. In any obstacle that we have in front of us, if we're choosing, we can either stop, we can not take on the challenge, right? And decide we're going to go a different way. And that's fine too. If there are other ways and you figure this out, do that, right? Or getting over it and getting through it, that they are what you need in order to succeed, to grow, to become the person that is moved through that thing. And now that you have that skill, you can apply that skill, whatever skills you learned getting through the obstacle, you can now use those skills in all of the other areas on the next levels of the video game of your life, right? And what I think is also interesting is that, and I don't know if I started to hint at it in the beginning, is that your mind is the only thing that can ever overcome obstacles. Your mind. We have to figure it out in order to get through it, right? But your mind is also what creates the obstacles. Even if it's an external thing, source, the alienating parent, right? But somebody, the reason I say it this way is because it's not that you're creating your own problems. Well, yeah, kind of, sometimes you are. But in the case of like some tragedy that happens, I'm not saying you're creating your own tragedy. What I'm saying is for some people, it wouldn't be the obstacle that you have in your mind, but there's always a way. For every problem, there's a solution, right? For every problem out there, there is a solution, and not everybody will find the problems that you find to be problems for them. So there's always what I'm getting at is there is always a way to move through anything that's before you, any challenge that's before you. It's just a matter of allowing your brain to focus and also to sort of adopt the state of mind to move through it and not crumble under the pressure like I did back in the day, and get distracted and butterfly around and ultimately shut down for years and stay in helplessness, confusion, depression, freeze mode, Let me go back to where I was now. So where was I? Okay, what are the types of beliefs that would prevent you from giving up? And I'm going to give you some suggestions here, but then you can, from here, bring up your own beliefs, thoughts that might help you to create the mindset of resilience. One of them is every problem has a solution, the one that I just gave you. This one is a tough one to swallow, but I say this to myself when I'm in situations. I find myself saying it throughout the days. Like I probably say it to myself 2 or 3 times a week. Am I someone who complains about problems, or am I someone who takes action towards the solutions? Because if I'm someone, and I'm not saying this in a shitty way to myself or a judgmental way, but do I want to be complaining about a problem in inaction and waving my hands and doing nothing, getting nothing solved? Or do I want to be the one that takes all the actions and gets to the other side and what was the problem anyway, sort of thing? right? Even with the little problems throughout my day. Another thought is, well, this is more of a statement, but working through the obstacle is what makes me the kind of person who is aligned with my end result. So, like, it takes the work to create the person, the version of me that that's done the thing, that's gotten through this. And if things were to just all of a sudden get better, like magically, then I never would have learned the skill to get to where I was, where everything magically, fit back in place. Or like people that like win the lottery. When they win the lottery, it's all the money. It's like, way, yay. But because they haven't done the work to become the person that is used to having the money that they all of a sudden inherited, they oftentimes, I remember my one of my first boyfriends out of high school, I won't say his name, his mom won the lottery. And 2 years later, it was gone. All the money was gone. Bless her heart. She's, such a great lady. But anyway, it happens all the time. You hear about it all the time. When problems just get solved for us magically, then we haven't done the work. And there's nothing wrong with that happening, right? But oftentimes we haven't done the work ourselves to become the person that knows how to solve problems like this, at this magnitude. And so now what that brings up is a lot of times is more scarcity almost immediately for us, because we know that at some point that money or the whatever is going to run out, and we're going to find ourselves back in the same position we were before the miracle happened. Right? So working through this obstacle is what makes the person who is aligned with the end result that you want. Right? So let me just read my notes here. Yeah, I said it all. I also tell myself, and I tell my clients this, they're not allowed to be confused. Saying I don't know, and I did an episode on this one time, saying I don't know isn't allowed. Because I don't know it's usually a lie that we say to ourselves. Because if you don't know, you could easily find out, but especially when we're talking about, I don't know how to proceed. I don't know what to do next. This happens so often, and it's not your fault. This is your survival system in your brain wanting to shut the fuck down. Let's watch Netflix. Let's pretend like this doesn't happen. Let's go drink some wine. Let's go. And these were all things that I used to do. Sometimes still do, not the drinking wine thing, but I still want to tune out sometimes. Let's scroll. What else can we do to just not think about this problem? I don't know what to do. It's one of the easiest ways for survival brain to talk you out of doing the things that's going to advance you to the person you already know you want to be, most of the time. So if you find yourself in a place of confusion, facing whatever obstacle you have before you, do something, anything. This is not anything new. I'm not recreating the wheel or reinventing the wheel here, you guys, but it's so important. I think I wish I would have had somebody telling me this stuff back then. I wish it, because I sat and spun out in trauma response and confusion and doubt, self-doubt, and all these things, because I was making even the problems about the problems all problems. And so my whole world was it was a lot of overwhelm, So what is the next question from confusion, right? That's the thought. If you have a thought, I'm not confused. Always tell yourself that. If you are confused, what is the next best action to take? That's the question you ask yourself. What's the next best thing I can do right now at this moment? What is that? A body in motion stays in motion. There's more to that, right? A body at rest. It's like harder to get yourself in motion when you've been at the standstill, right? So much easier in all the ways to just keep putting one foot in front of the other. When you say you're confused and you don't do anything and you're in overwhelm, it's so much easier for you Your survival brain has already reinforced the habit of backing down and tuning out. So you've made that habit much stronger and reinforced than you have the habit of facing the problem and doing the next best thing. So this is your opportunity, sort of like I was saying when I was asking myself the questions up there, like, are the thoughts, like telling myself that working through this is going to make me the person. Here is like, I could sit in confusion and reinforce that, the non-action habit in my brain that's going strong right now. It's like a super highway up there. Or I can just take one step. And that one step in doing whatever action it is, even if it's not the right action, is going to provide me with feedback about what I want to do next. It always will if you're open to it, you know? So if you're like, I don't know what to do. I mean, I can think of a million ways that this comes up for us. Usually though, it's because we don't know what we want to do because we're scared of somebody else's reaction. That's a whole nother topic in general, but always just defer back to what I was saying earlier is, what is your goal? What's the goal you need to create? And try not to worry so much. I'm jumping ahead of myself because I will talk about this in a minute. Well, is when we, is there anything I need to say? Yeah, that's fine. I can, just making sure I wasn't going to cut off some parts that maybe we needed. When we are choosing perfection, trying to get things right and perfect because we're worried about what other people are thinking or doing or how they're going to react, you're going to sidetrack yourself. I did this for a really long time too, back then. I was petrified thinking about, and it kept me stuck for a really long time, because then I felt like I was victimized by them meaning the alienating parent, right? I felt entirely victimized, like they are controlling my every move. I can't even step out and do what I want to do because I know that they're over there judging me and watching me and all that. And now talking about making problems for yourself, thinking back about that, why? Who cares? Who cares? They're going to do it. And it's going to feel really scary for you. It's going to feel like you're going to die to like step out and know that they are judging you, especially if you're thinking, well, they're going to use it against me. They're going to use this. They're going to blah, blah, blah. Survival brain is great at doing this. I mean, obviously be smart, right? And don't go do things like that are going to hurt your case or hurt your relationship with your kiddos. But if you know that you're on the up and up, and the things that you're stepping out to do are really only growing you and benefiting you and could never hurt anybody. Like, for instance, me, when I was moving from the fitness side of things over to the mental health side of things, and I was stepping out and telling people that I was a coach. Oh my God, you guys. I was petrified. It's the perfect word, because I was so nervous, scared, all the things that convinced that they were going to laugh, spread rumors, try to take me down, cut me off, tell people what a bad person I was. And then so that would make me look terrible in front of other people. And then I would never succeed at my coaching venture, right? That didn't happen. And even if it didn't affect me, because I finally got so, and you apply this to whatever it is that you're doing in your life, right? Or whatever it is that whatever goal you're wanting to create for yourself. So many alienated parents that I talk to are so concerned with what they're going to say, what they're going to think, what their kids are going to think. If they're going to think that you are having too much fun, that you're not being all the things, right? Another big, you have to, I finally got so sick, like actually physically sick and tired of tormenting myself, because that's what I was doing. I was telling myself it was them that was doing it, but really it was me. It was a problem I created for myself, So I finally had to let go of the perfectionism and the people pleasing. I guess that would be qualified as people pleasing that I was doing so that I could get on and start creating the results that I needed to get over all of these obstacles. Right. And not only make money for myself in that way, but also grow myself. And even taking those actions, like taking the actions was getting me to the goals I wanted to get to, but also it was growing me and teaching me resilience and determination and not to care about what they're thinking. And while I was doing that and taking the steps further, I was also building up new evidence to support that I could survive it. That I was going to be okay, even if they did judge me. It's okay. I'm still here. I'm standing. I'm not dead. Lightning didn't strike me dead. It's going to be okay. So what else? Oh, so what's the next best action? What can you change? Which I know that this is also an obvious one, but oftentimes we'll be so focused. This goes back up to the first one. We'll be so focused on the problem, right? Hyper focused on that we all of a sudden think that nothing can change and we have no solutions. But start looking at the little things that you actually can affect now. What can change in this moment? What am I in control of here? And you can change how you feel always by changing what you think. Always. So if you're feeling, for the situation I was just talking about with stepping out and being so petrified and convinced that they were going to just like cut me off and destroy my whole, foil my plan. I decided it wasn't worth it for me to keep indulging in that fear and that paranoia that I had, and thinking the thought they're gonna cut me off, they're gonna judge me, they're gonna, all the things, whatever. And instead, I changed my thoughts to what I was going to create. I'm going to go do this for myself. I need a win. I don't know exactly what my thought was, but even that, if you try that thought on, it's going to create a much different result for you because you're feeling a different way. When you're thinking, I want to win, I'm going to create a win, I'm going to become this person over here, guaranteed then you're not petrified or whatever it is that you're feeling, right? So, what was next? Learn from mistakes instead of avoiding them was another note that I have down. Instead of avoiding all of the obstacles, I made so many mistakes, ones that I repeated over and over and should have learned from, right? And I didn't because I was so I wasn't aware of what was going on because I was so lost in the problems, right? And frantic. So when I began learning from my mistakes, instead of using my mistakes as evidence to support the fact that I couldn't accomplish or complete the mission, then that's when I started gaining traction. That my mistakes weren't fails. They weren't evidence that I wasn't going to make it. They were just ways, there was information, it was data. Each time I fell, it was like, oh, right. Okay, so when I do this, then this is what I get. Why did I do that? Right? And that I could get really specific, but we don't have time for it right now. So what if nothing's gone wrong? What if this boulder in the road has always been there? I did go out of order. Motivation and determination. Mindsets of motivation and determination are always what you need in order to move through and to accomplish the goal past the obstacle. And motivation is not created beforehand. It's created in the moment. It's created in motion. So just remember that waiting for motivation will not get you to motivation. Motivation and also inspiration happen as you're doing. It's the push after you've gone. So determination is really, really key to, and keeping your eye on where you want to go is key. Developing courage, endurance, optimism, confidence, creativity, commitment, and resilience. These are all emotions, and they're also skills. You can practice having them. You can draw on other areas where you've had those emotions, those skills before, and apply them here. I have a cat throwing us back there. It's okay. All right. So almost lastly. I already went through the people pleasing, letting go of perfectionism, learning from mistakes. Okay. Basically, these are just my thoughts that I was writing down, is finding the internal solution to the external problem. So when you think about it like that, like the solution is within me to the problem that's out there. Like that's all it is. Instead of turning, this was a thing for me too, I would turn to the external to solve the external. And as you remember in the beginning, I said that any obstacle we have, we really is created in the brain, and the solution to it is also created in the brain, right? So what is the internal solution for the external problem? It basically, and for me, it settles me to know I already have everything I need. I'm already fully equipped. There's nothing outside of me that is going to solve this problem more or better than this can right here, than I can. It, to me, I think so many of us feel like we're without resources, without support, without, you know how that is, right? If I only had this, if I only had the money, if I only had, the people, the know-how, the people that could help me to do this. Keep reminding yourself, there's an internal solution to the external problem. Okay. And then I wrote down, change the world or change your mind, right? To anything that goes on, you can change outside, kind of like what I was just talking about a second ago. You can change the things outside of you in order to set things up for you and rig the game, right? Or you can change the way that you're thinking about it and change the problems forever, because now you've developed the skills. Another thing I wrote down is we find what we look for. When we're looking for problems, the reason I wrote this is because I was thinking about how often I hear this, and I'll say it related to me, so that I'm not just saying all alienated parents do this. I used to assume like the worst about, I did an episode on this recently, but about what was intended on their side, right? Over at the alienating parents' house. I would always assume what they meant, and maybe I know from history, but that assumption, if I'm always looking for that to happen, that's always how I'm going to see the world. And then I've now distracted myself into a problem that doesn't have to be a problem. What their intention is, in most cases, isn't important. In most cases. Now, if we're talking about going back to court and stuff, that's a different thing. But then you put on that hat for a specified period of time in order to solve the problem, right? Like figuring out somebody else's strategy because of what you need to do ahead of time, But as far as for your every day-to-day living, like we're going to find the brain is very adept at finding problems that may not already be there, but the way that we're seeing things, we will always find what we want, right? maybe we don't want, but that's what we want, like the brain wants to see because it's what we already believe, you know? Limitations exist in our mind. I've already pretty much gone through that. And resistance is always going to be present. I already went. Don't let the boulder in the road stop you. So that is it. I think I went through everything. So basically, no matter what we're going through, even the consistent, constant, not always announced sort of obstacles that happen throughout your situations of alienation. I know how challenging it is. Like I know, and it's awful because it's being done. It feels like it's being done at you, you know? When, yes, you were the one that is experiencing the results as a direct result of what they're doing, but you decide how you want to see it all. And no matter what, no matter how many people you could get to agree with you that what they're doing is a problem, if you seeing what they're doing is a problem, if you seeing it as a problem is causing more problems for you, then maybe rethink the way that you're thinking about it. So it doesn't make it so scary, because here's the thing is, it's one thing if you're trying to be strategic and you need to know and you need to be smart about what you're going to do next. I get you. But also coming from that spot when you feel like you have to be anticipating all the things that they're going to be doing, you don't usually get much accomplished from that spot. You say your brain will tell you, your survival brain will tell you that you're being smart and you're just keeping yourself aware. But really from that place, when you're keeping yourself aware, you actually keep yourself aware in a corner somewhere. You know what I'm saying? Funny, not funny. And you don't get anything done. You become more paranoid, more isolated, more confused, more overwhelmed, and nothing happens from that place. So really become aware of what you're making a problem in your mind. And I'm not by any means downplaying the adversity that we go through as alienated parents by any means. What I'm saying is don't make it bigger than it really needs to be. What you really want to do is shrink the problems down in your mind so they are achievable, so they are overcomable. I don't know if that's a word, but you know. So, does anybody have any questions? I don't know how to really see, like I see Sean's comments and I don't know who is here right now. If there are, okay. Well, I don't want to like click off too soon because I know that there was a delay. I'll wait like a minute or so, and then if I don't see any questions, then I will say sayonara. You guys, the group coaching program opens the doors tomorrow. And I will keep the doors open for it until Wednesday or Friday. I'll send an email out. If you're not on the email list and you're watching this, well, if you're watching this after the fact, then October 7th is tomorrow. October 10th, I want to say, somewhere around there, I will close the doors. Just depends. So if you're not on my email list, get on it. Go to beyondthehighroad.com. Okay. And I'll let you know more about that. That is it. Okay, guys. Have a lovely rest of your Sunday or a lovely rest of your day if you're watching it.